This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Pero may mga nagsasabi na ang problema ay nanggagaling mismo sa Supreme Court.
Ano sa palagay nyo ang endgame na gustong mangyari nung grupo ng Maute?
Napakadaming problema ng bayan. Magandang gabi po, mga kasambahay. Muli pong sumasa inyo ang inyong kaibigang si Tatad, kasama po si Ariel Ayala sa ating programa, Una sa Lahat. Ngayong gabi po, kasama natin ang isang kaibigan na galing po sa Netherlands. At ang ating pag-uusapan ay mahalagang bagay, kaya siya ating naimbitahan ngayon. Tonight, we have with us a guest from the Netherlands, blogger Max van der Werff.
Well pronounced.
And ang pag-uusapan po natin ay isang insidente nangyari po 4 years ago. Yung isa pong eroplano ng Malaysian Airlines ay nawala po, bumagsak po doon sa Ukraine. 298 po ang pasahero dito. May kasama pong 3 Pilipino. Isang nanay at kanyang 2 anak. Hanggang ngayon po, magulo ang istorya kung anong nangyari dito sa aeroplano ito. Ito po si Mr. Van der Werff. Ay matagal na niya pong sinusundan itong istoryang ito. At hindi siya naniniwala doon siya lumalabas sa investigasyon po ng Joint Investigation Team na binubuo po ng 5 bansa. No? Kaya yung kanya pang nilalabas na kanyang research ay siyempre binabaliwala po ng mga gobyerno sa Europa, pero pinag-uusapan po ito. Interesado po tayo dito dahil nasabi ko na nga po, may 3 Pilipino kasali dito. Hindi natin na malaman kung anong nangyari talaga, kaya minabuti nating imbitahan po si Max dito sa ating programa. Welcome to the show, Max. First of all, we'd like you to tell us from the very beginning what really happened here. How did you get involved in this project, and what have you seen so far that may agree or disagree with the findings of the Joint Investigating Team?
Okay, I'll try to explain it in short. First of all, thank you very much for having me here in the studio. And for the people who only speak English, you explained there were 3 Filipino citizens on board. So for the English-speaking people around the world who will watch this later, say it was Irene Gunawan with her daughter Cheryl and her son Daryl, and her Indonesian husband. They perished. So I understand for the Philippines this MH17 tragedy should also be an issue. So I'm very glad I get the chance to explain. Well, what happened on July 17th, on that tragic day, the plane was full with passengers and crew, 298 people total, flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, and it was around 16:20 local time, 4:20 p.m. It was hit by what seems to be a bug missile. The plane crashed, and from then on it became a geopolitical fight to put the blame on Russia or not to put the blame on Russia. This in short happened. It happened during a local war in the Ukraine, of which Ukraine says Russia is involved, of which Russia says we have nothing to do with it. So a sort of local conflict all of a sudden became world news. So in my view, the crash of the MH17, the shoot-down, it's part of a bigger war that was going on in Ukraine. But also it happens because there was a geopolitical conflict that's still going on between Russia and the West about influence.
The tendency of the investigating team is to put all the blame on Russia.
Officially, no. They will deny it. We have to go back to the days after the shoot-down. The Ukrainians, they were going to lead the investigation because normally that's what happens with international law. When the plane crashes in the country, it's the country that's responsible for clarifying the circumstances. But because it was immediately clear that there was a huge political component in this crash, and there were almost 200 Dutch citizens on board, also the Netherlands wanted to have a saying in what was going to happen. So very short after the shoot-down, it was agreed to make a joint investigation team with Ukraine, with the Netherlands, Australia, who also lost a lot of people, Belgium, and Malaysia. So 5 countries. But Malaysia, the country that lost the plane, that lost the crew, that lost passengers on board, that few months before that lost MH17 that disappeared. You know better about that than me. They were not invited to become part of this investigation team. So to my knowledge, it's unheard of that a country that lost the plane is not allowed to become part of the investigation. Later, Malaysia was again allowed, but there were all kinds of rumors why Malaysia was not allowed, because they have the death penalty or whatever, or Ukraine didn't want them to be. This is all speculation. We don't know the official reason because that's secret. So one part of my criticism to joint investigation team is they seem not to be unbiased. They seem to be biased.
Biased for whom or against whom?
Well, if you look at Australia, Belgium, and Netherlands, it's 3 countries of the JIT, the majority of the JIT. They're part of NATO and a part of the Five Eye Alliance. So this is a Western political group that is against Russia.
What is the status of the investigation at this point?
At this moment, the official joint investigation, the freshest statement they have made was end of May this year, and it was that they are sure, they have irrefutable evidence that the plane was shot down by a Buk missile from the 53rd Regiment of the Kursk Air Defense Brigade, Russia.
It's the Russians that shut down?
Yes. Well, the Russians, of course, disagree. And also Malaysia, by word of their Minister of Transport, they have said, we are part of the joint investigation team, but the evidence against Russia so far is not conclusive enough.
What happens to this evidence in the end? Is there any way of making the parties supposed to be responsible for the incident truly responsible and being made to pay for damages or whatever?
Maybe it's good now to explain that the joint investigation team, it's a prosecution team that's looking for the culprits, for, let's say, the physical persons who transport the murder weapon, who were in the team locking on with the radar to the plane, the person who pressed the button. So this is a different type of court preparation than a country against a country. So formally, JIT is not investigating against Russia. It's searching for private persons who are liable for the shoot-down. And Ukraine has agreed that the court proceedings will go under Dutch law by a Dutch court when they find the perpetrators, so the persons. So there's not going to be a Dutch court case against Russia in this respect. So the joint investigation team, you have to see it as a kind of prosecution team that will hand over the collected evidence to the Dutch court.
So there's no...
It's a little bit technical, but there's a big difference There's no direct accusation against Russia.
There's
The political impact, when you allow me, is that the Netherlands and Australia as a country have formally declared that they hold Russia liable for the shoot-down of the Malaysian Boeing. So this is connected, but not exactly a JIT issue. This is a political issue. And Malaysia refuses, and of course Ukraine already has a procedure in the International Court of Justice against Russia for the invasion of Ukraine, as they claim, of which MH17 is part of the accusation. But from the joint investigation team, it's only the countries Australia and the Netherlands who hold Russia liable for the shoot-down. And Malaysia is not doing that. And to my personal surprise, Belgium, our neighboring country of the Netherlands, formally also has not spoken out that way. And this is a big surprise.
So you have 2 countries out of 5.
Yes.
It's not the majority, it's the minority.
No, but Ukraine would love to join the Dutch and the Australians, but off the record, some journalists have heard from the Dutch officials that the Netherlands and Australia don't want Ukraine to join this accusation at the moment.
Because of?
Because it would be an excuse for Russia to say, you see, yeah, if Ukraine says it, there's so anti-Russian, of course they would do that.
What are those evidences that the conclusion was based upon?
Well, the joint investigation team claims to have a lot of overwhelming evidence, but they have not made it public because they don't want play into the hands of the people who did it. That's the official argument, and which makes sense. It's the prosecution in any court case will hold evidence not to help the accused. From what is public information, I have studied everything that the JIT has published, and it's really questionable, the videos they have shown and all beautiful 3D animations that show what supposedly would have happened, but it's a lot of speculation. And I went to the crash site and the whole area twice myself. I've been on all the spots that are mentioned in the press conferences of the JIT, and I just find a lot of inconsistencies. I have a lot of doubts, a lot of questions.
So the videos that they distributed or were uploaded on the internet were maybe at best a rendering?
Nowadays, it's like you can be your own detective on the internet, and it's a very nice word. It's called OSINT. It's open source intelligence. So everybody can play his own SOFA expert. Go to the internet, you look on Google satellite images from the internet, you look at all kinds of websites, you try to find Twitter accounts, and you collect all your online evidence, and from that you build up your story. The problem with this is, can you verify who is behind the accounts that put the information in the internet? And that story is largely ignored. It's like cherry picking. If you find something in the internet and it says Vladimir Putin, and tomorrow I'm going to attack Ukraine, and of course it's not Vladimir Putin who did it. So you have to decide what is real and what is fake, and it's very hard.
So the evidences are just narration?
To my opinion, yes, but of course I speculate from my side because I don't know what information the JIT is holding back. So maybe they do have all the fantastic evidence, but after 4 years they haven't shown anything that convinces me. It's all from hearsay, it's all from open sources on the internet, unverifiable. It's not open source. What is behind the open source?
How did you get involved in this?
I like to do my own investigations. It became a hobby of mine. First investigation I did was about war crimes committed by Dutch military in Indonesia during the War of Independence, 45-49. My dad lived in Indonesia at that time as a young man. He saw some war crimes being committed himself. As a young boy, I listened to it, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. But later in my life, I started hearing about Rawagadei massacre and other stuff, and I became interested. And then there was one guy in Indonesia, Mr. Jeffrey Pondag, who lives in the Netherlands. He started to ring the bell and said, you Dutch guys, you're not better than anybody else. You committed war crimes as well. So I was intrigued, and I started helping him with the investigations.
Okay.
to some success.
We'll pause for a while and come back after a few seconds. Ako yung nagbabalik. Sama pa rin po natin si Ariel at saka ang ating bisitang si Max. Max, please continue your narration.
So I went to Indonesia to find witnesses who saw war crimes committed by Dutch troops. I went to the archives in The Hague. I compared the stories. I got help from Indonesian people. I came to find some war crimes committed and relayed the information to lawyers in the Netherlands. And then, well, some have started a court case against the Dutch state. And recently, one Mr. Jasman, who died unfortunately a few years ago, he won his case against the Dutch state, and because he has been tortured by Dutch military during this war of independence. So I learned from first-hand experience that you have to go to the crime sites to get to the truth. You cannot do it behind your laptop. You cannot just trust any information from any source.
So in the Indonesian case, there are crimes that were committed which you wanted to uncover.
Yes.
In the case of the Malaysian Airways Boeing case, do you sense that crimes have been committed which should be exposed?
It was a war zone. In a war zone, normally, civilian airlines shouldn't fly. So, of course, the airspace should have been closed. In hindsight, we always know everything better. Fact is, the airspace was not closed, and there's only one party responsible for that, and that's Ukraine. There can be no discussion, there's no disagreement to any party. Then, who shot down the plane? Why did they shoot down the plane? Here, you get all kinds of theories. And there's I call them the MH17 fundamentalists. That's one group. On the one hand, they say Russia did it. They knew it after the plane was not even finished burning. And there's also the fanatics on the other side, and they say, no, it's the CIA who did it, or it's Ukraine who did it, Russia is innocent, or it's the deep state, or it's Israel, it's the Mossad, it's the Zionists. So you get the fundamentalists, they know everything. After studying 3,000 hours, anything that's online, I can assure you, I don't know what happened yet. Because in the open source, there's just not irrefutable proof. There is, of course, people who know it. But the people who claim to know, based on open sources, they're lying or they're idiots, or both.
How should this story end?
Sorry?
How should this story end? What is the ideal way that you see?
The ideal way is there will be some whistleblower who comes forward and says, here's what happened, here's the proof. That would be one way. Another way is that a country who knows who did it will get remorse, or will be in some political bargaining chip exchange the truth for some advantage on other issues. So hopefully the truth will come out, and that the people who committed this crime admit to it.
How do we get to that point? What should be done, and who should do it? Is your effort sufficient?
No, of course not. I mean, I'm a futile little blogger. I have no budget. I have no connections.
Are you the only one doing this?
No, there are other people. It's a very small group. But of course, we never go to the truth because we have no access to the secret information. I don't have the radar data. Russia has the radar data. Ukraine has the radar data, although they say they don't, but they're lying. And they know they're lying. And Russia presents radar data. They said they lost it. And they find it 2 years later, 3 days before the JIT press conference. It all, I mean, from all sides, there's just a bad smell about everybody, all stakeholders in this game. They disseminate bad smelling information. I have to say it bluntly like that.
And at the other end is Russia.
Russians, they
tend to get this bad odor.
Yes, because they have also talked nonsense. I mean, the Russian Ministry of Defense says, oh, here you can see a Sukhoi on the radar and it's visible. And then on the data, the radar data they lost 2 years later, they found it, and then there's no plane visible. I mean, to me, you have to explain it. So when I ask, can you explain it, I don't get an answer. So I always, when I have questions and I don't get answers, I become skeptical. And this is for Russia, but they are clumsy with their propaganda. And we have professionals in the West who do nothing else than making propaganda. So by being clumsy with your propaganda, it doesn't mean you're guilty. It just does, it looks very bad. And I don't exclude the possibility. I'm an independent researcher. They call me Kremlin troll and useful idiot in the West. But I have my doubts about the official Joint Investigation Team statements. I do not believe that this is the truth. And automatically, when you're a dissident voice in the West, they want to silence you, they want to ridicule you, they want to marginalize you. And then they call you all this kind of names like truther. But with an open discussion, there's no room for it because I'm blocked from all the media. I can make my tweets, which nobody reads. But Dutch television, I'm here sitting here on the other end of the world in the Philippines to talk about 3 deceased Philippine people on board. But in the Netherlands, nobody's interested in what I have to say. So why is that?
If we will use deduction, can we approximate who shot successfully the Malaysian airline?
I have avoided for 4 years to speculate. Let's say there are some theories going around. Let's first of all accept probably it was an accident. So whoever war fraction did it, it was an accident. So it doesn't make the tragedy less tragic, but then it was an accident. When we look at who could have deliberately shoot it down and benefit from it, then the answer we can ask a reversed question first. Did it benefit Russia to shoot down the plane? No, it was horrible for them. It was a disaster. This country is demonized for 4 years by Western media as the culprit of the crime. So Russia certainly didn't have anything to benefit. So if you look at Kibono, who benefits, and it was a deliberate shoot down, then it was not the Russians. It could be other parties. And if it was an accident, the whole area was stashed with military hardware, also from the Ukrainian side. Ukrainians in 2001, they shot down by accident a Russian plane, Sibir 1812, with mostly Israeli citizens on board. It was a drill in Crimea, then it was still Ukrainian territory. Now it's Russian, as they say. There was a military drill, and the Ukrainians, they were trying to shoot down a drone. They fired 2 missiles. One hit the drone, one had no target and redirected to the civilian plane over the Black Sea, and it crashed. It happened in 2001. The court case is still going on, and Ukraine is denying.
It's a long process.
Ukraine denies it did it.
Yeah.
Officially denies. So it could be an exercise gone wrong. Maybe by the rebels who had air defenses. They deny they had them. We don't know. Maybe by Russians who tried to help the Slav brothers in Donbass. It's speculation. So,
But we can start by looking at the capacity or capability of at least the agreed weapon.
well, for
that was
certain,
used.
the Ukrainian army has Buk Taylors, and they have, according to the manufacturer Almas Antai, they have 991 Buk missiles in their inventory. So they certainly had the capability to shoot down. They don't only have Buk missiles, but also S-125, S-200, all kinds of air defenses. So for the Ukrainian army, it would be not difficult to shoot down an airliner.
So, but it seems that everybody is in agreement that a Buk missile was used.
That is the most likely cause. That's what most sources say. But the Russians not officially confirmed it must have been a Buk missile. They just deny it was their Buk missile if it was a Buk missile. So these are very tiny details. I'm very careful. In the end, when the truth comes out, maybe it was another weapon after all.
But Buk missile is not a beyond the horizon missile. It is a short-range missile.
Yes, correct.
It will not be effective beyond 8 kilometers.
Well, it has a reach between 20 and 30 kilometers, depending on the situation.
And how far is the position of the plane when it was shot down? How far from Russian territory?
30 kilometers about.
So 30 kilometers in the border.
Yeah.
And were there evidence that, or evidences that there were missile batteries at the border or far inside the border?
No, let's say it like this. There's nobody who claims there was a Russian battery inside Russian territory that shot down the Malaysian Boeing. Nobody claims this.
Yeah.
So this we can skip from the... It's just as exotic as a meteorite hit the plane. It just didn't happen.
What is the basis of the claim coming from Australia and the Netherlands that it was the Russians that did it?
Well, they base their claim on information they claim to have. They don't show it to us because they say it has to be secret until it goes to the court. But what they claim they have the evidence. But what they have shown for Malaysia, it's not reason to join them in the accusation. So there's room for discussion.
So it's all speculation, and this reminds me of the other incident involving Russia in the poisoning of Sergei Skripal.
Yeah, that story also becomes more exotic day by day.
Yeah, the line that the British government used was, "It is highly likely
Yeah, highly likely.
that the Russians did it."
Yeah, highly likely. This can mean anything.
Yes.
But I think what is going on a political, geopolitical level, you can discuss about what is the truth and what not based on evidence that is public. But there's also something like the presumption of innocence.
Yes.
And when it comes to accusing Russia, in the West, anything goes.
Presumption of guilt.
There's a new story that one Russian girl was poisoned by rat poison in Salisbury and Putin arranged it. I mean, the things get more and more ridiculous. So I think presumption of innocence is a very important thing in the world and in the justice. And that is why I'm not prepared to say Russia did it or Ukraine did it or anybody did it, because we simply, as people who don't have all the information, don't know.
But as a blogger, you're saying that the Russians are not doing a very good job of defending themselves.
No, because on technical details, they make mistakes. Like in the press conference, the Russian MOD, they say that a buck-tailor followed a certain route and it was driving backwards, it could not. But already more than 2 years ago, more than 1.5 years ago, I already wrote it's not like that, because the joint investigation team made a mistake in the route they showed that the buck-tailor allegedly would have taken. So based on this mistake, the Russian Ministry of Defense makes its own mistake. This is just sloppy research, sorry to say.
Unfortunate, indeed. Now, Max, 298 people perished on that flight. 3 Filipinos, that's a very small number. No?
Yes.
But is there any evidence that the Philippine government made an effort to find out?
I'm a researcher, I have looked for it. Same question I have for Indonesia. I cannot find anything in the net. So this was maybe unusual. I have a question for you as the interviewed person. But what is the position of the Philippines regarding these 3 people who perished in this crime? Does the Philippine government appreciate what the joint investigation team is doing? Do they agree? Does Malacanang, the palace with Mr. Duterte, agree that the 53rd Brigade shot down the plane? What is the position of Philippines?
Well, I'm no longer in government. I used to be a senator, I used to be in the cabinet. But I'll raise this question.
Please let me know.
With the Philippine government.
Your viewers and my Twitter
Because,
followers will be highly interested.
You know, one life is one life too many.
Yes.
And this is not just one life.
It should not happen again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm afraid it will, because there's no lessons learned.
Okay. We'll pause for a while and get back to you after a few seconds. Kami po yung nagbabalik, kasama pa rin po natin si Ariel at saka ating kaibigan si Max. No? Tinatanong ko po kung nagkaroon ba ng interest itong ating pamahalaan dito sa isyung ito dahil sa mayroong namatay na 3 Pilipino po. 3 Pilipino. Yung babae nakapangasawa ng Indonesia at yung kanilang 2 anak. Yan po ang casualty rito. Mukhang wala tayong nababalitaan na interest na ipinakita ng ating gobyerno. Now, let's expand the conversation a little bit because I'm worried about what I'm seeing. Russia tends to be getting all the blame
Yes.
in all this. No? You have the Skripal poisoning in Salisbury, and now you have this.
The influence in the American election.
Yeah, the so-called Russia Gate in America, which Foreign Minister Lavrov calls Russophobia. No?
Russophobia.
Yes,
Yeah.
Russophobia.
Or Russia hate, not only fear, but
you have
straightforward
been
hate.
doing your blogging
Yes.
in this wide field, no? And your assessment is that Russia is not doing its propaganda work as well as the West.
Yes, that's a fact. I think everybody can see that Western propaganda, I mean, from the Philippines here, the perspective is easier to understand. And when you live inside the West, and you're surrounded by CNN and Fox and BBC and ABS and Dutch NOS, you might get the illusion that there's a lot of different opinions. But the bandwidth of what is discussed is very limited,
Very narrow.
very narrow. So from here, I have to travel, again, I say it, to the other end of the world to be heard. It's very strange, because in the Netherlands, we lost almost 200 people, I repeat. Like, it's for our nation,
Yes.
relative compared to the United States, it's a bigger tragedy than 9/11 for the Americans. So the impact in my country cannot be underestimated. But yet, not all views get honest attention. And as a blogger, I build up my reputation to study Dutch war crimes in Indonesia. I should get a little bit of respect in the Netherlands for my opinions in this case. Because I'm not making any accusations. It's the Dutch media who blame Russia for 4 years from the beginning. And I just refuse to accept this without hard evidence.
Are you able to connect to your possible friends or supporters in Russia?
Communication with Russia is problematic. There's an enormous language gap. There's also distrust of Western people. I mean, what could they earn or benefit from dealing with me? So if I had a chance to talk to the President Putin himself, I would know what to say.
Yeah, on that, on the general proposition that they are not doing their propaganda work very well, would you want to speak, to give it the chance to directly to President Putin?
My Russian is a little bit rusty, so
Mine is worse. So
простите мой плохой русский, но я буду постараться. Уважаемый президент, уважаемый Владимир Владимирович, меня зовут Макс ван дер Werff, я голландский блогер, и мне очень нравится вашу страну. Но информация о малайзийский Boeing MH17 в России это неадекватно и, к сожалению, контрпродуктивно. Пожалуйста, пригласите меня, и мы можем обсуждать серьезно. Спасибо за ваше внимание.
what did you say?
I said, of course, respected President, unfortunately, I respect your country. I really appreciate your country. But unfortunately, the information you give about MH17 is inadequate and unfortunately counterproductive. So please invite me so I can explain.
Very good. I hope that he picks up the phone and
You never know.
ask you to be more helpful. Okay, right.
Yeah, What's the status now of this investigation by JIT?
The investigation continues. The last briefing press conference was in May. I expect soon they have to come up with some names of some suspects, put them on the Interpol list. Then there will be a Dutch court prepared. There will be subpoenas. There will be handouts. Probably the countries of the suspects, they will get a letter and get an invitation to arrest these people and send them to the Dutch court. And the other option is the investigation continues and continues, and there will be never any real court case. And then there's another track, is that the Dutch and Australian government hold Russia liable and start a court case in ICC or ECHR. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't, but it's possible that states also hold states responsible in court.
What would be the appropriate forum for this if Australia and the Netherlands decide to bring a case against Russia?
I think we have to go back. I have to go back to day number 1, and we had very soon after the shootdown, we had resolution, United Nations resolution 2166, that all parties have to help the investigation. Russia proposed to have an investigation under leadership of the United Nations. This was rejected by the Netherlands. I think, in hindsight, the correct procedure would have been to have an investigation directly under the authority of the United Nations, and not by some countries who are not regarded impartial by a big part in the world.
The UN Security Council.
United Nations should have conducted this very politically sensitive air crash and shoot down, and not countries, and certainly not a team of countries of which one is a possible suspect and a possible perpetrator. This is going to be the excuse for Russia in the end to refuse to admit what happened. This is going to be their last line of defense. Very predictable.
Is it still timely, or is it too late for President Duterte to involve himself?
I would really appreciate if President Duterte will take an official stand on this situation. Does it support the Malaysian position? There's not enough evidence. Or does it support the Netherlands and Australia? Or does it support the joint investigation team? I mean, it's 3 of his countrymen who died on board.
Yeah. And they are from where? Mindanao?
That I've not seen, but it seems the couple, Mrs. Gunawan and her husband and the children, they were living in the Netherlands. But the 3 were Philippine citizens.
Yes. Well, what else do you intend to do?
I will keep reading and listening to anything that is said about this case. It just, first day it happened, I already knew this is going to be a geopolitical thing that's going on for a long time. This is going to be, for the Netherlands, a major issue for years to come. And it's a tragedy, and I'm just also a very curious person. I want to know the truth behind the truth. I want to dissect the fiction from facts, and it's not always what it seems.
Yes, as we all know. Max, we'll spend the next few minutes trying to talk about you.
About me?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Yeah, you are now living in Subic.
Yeah, I'm very happy in Subic Bay.
So you are almost a Filipino now.
Yeah.
How do you find living in the country?
Okay, I've been visiting Philippines already in the 80s when Cory Aquino was president. I had lunch in the Hyatt, and she came in and took the table next to me, and well, she was even friendly winking, and I went to her, shook her hand, and so Philippines is a country that has always been very good to me. I feel, always when I'm here, I feel at home. And the last 6 years, I came here back 6 years after a long time being absent for an assignment, and I liked it so much, I decided I'll stay a little bit longer, extend my tourist visa, and then I met the most beautiful woman in the world, and
No disagreement.
well, there's no way I'm going to run anymore.
And she is not Ukrainian.
She is Filipina.
I was told that the most beautiful women in the world are from Ukraine. Now you're saying the most beautiful woman in the world is from Samar.
For me, yes.
Yes, we are happy to hear that, and we hope that you will continue doing what you're doing, and try to help everyone, including the Philippine government, and this particular endeavor. I hope that President Duterte will pay some attention to this issue, because this is very important, not only for the country but for the world. We need more statesmen out there.
Yeah. About Philippine local politics.
Yes.
You're the expert, not me. But I'm sure the president will attend to it, because, of course, it is an international issue
Yeah.
that also is important for the Philippines, finally.
Okay. So, are you expecting big developments in the JIT investigation, or have they exhausted everything that they can set and they can find?
You never know. There can be a witness coming forward. There can be other people who have some information about witnesses. There can be a smoking gun still be buried somewhere. It's really too early to speculate about the outcome. The only thing is that what they have presented in the last 4 years, to me, it's very far from impressive.
The evidences to be recognized by the JIT, are all these members, 5 nations, can reject any evidence to be submitted for their acceptance?
The agreement that was made to form the JIT is secret. So what has been arranged among them is secret. We cannot see the contract that they have made together. There is a non-disclosure agreement that nothing the investigation collects on information can be given to the public without consent of all the parties. So to me, that means Ukraine has a veto, which is very bad, because I already said before, they had the capability to shoot down the plane. So if there would be information pointing to Ukraine, what do you think they will do?
Yeah.
They will say, oh, let's find the truth, or they will say, we use our veto power, we block the consent. Also, when all this information is collected, it will go to the court, and then the court can decide to make it public or not. It's not that the JIT eventually decides what will happen with the evidence. Their job is to collect, and the court is there to decide what is valid evidence and which is not.
Not even the UN can access this secret information entered into?
Mr. Westerbeke, who is leading the Dutch part of the joint investigation team, has said that, for example, American supplied evidence from the United States can be used in court, but it will still be kept a state secret. And even it can be used in court because some Dutch officers have seen the evidence and they can testify, but the evidence itself will not be presented and not be made public. Not even the defense, not even the judge of the court will see the actual evidence.
So,
Think about this.
So it's
This is 1984.
Well, as a former politician, you do the qualifications. I really like to be a little bit on the careful side.
Okay.
But it is food for thought. And again, the presumption of innocence, it has been lost in the first day when all these tabloids in the West said, Putin's missile, Putin killed my baby. I think it's very inappropriate, very unfair.
Well, I hope President Putin gets your message from the program. And we'd like to thank you very much, Max.
Thank you very much for
Werff,
having me here. Thank you.
for sharing with us everything the past 60 minutes.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.